So as you can see, it is a place like with historic significance for the region of Eger, giving you beautiful perspectives onto the vineyard city of Eger, where the wine is grown, where we definitely can ripen grapes, but keep acidity actually fresh. It's a small little like wine region like northeast of Budapest, 1.5 hours of drive. And so those are wines that are made for drinking, easy drinking, simple and uncomplicated, fresh summer wine. So basically when you walk into like a winery and you go into their like native cellar in this like tough structure, it's a Beatles museum. I mean, you have to just mention that. Yeah, Eger, good question. It's a region I think that that I have some kind of special relation to, because if I'm not remembering totally incorrectly, this has been my first wine travel ever. I think before I even really knew about wine, it was a trip to Budapest, and that included then like a small road trip, also like to Romania, and stopping by in Eger naturally on the way. So it's a small little like wine region like northeast of Budapest, 1.5 hours of drive, and then you are in this beautiful wine region. Suddenly the highway changes and suddenly like the wines are popping out to the left and the right. And yeah, this has been magical back then. I remember some beautiful just like evenings and great temperatures, and I'm back here now, I think 7 years later or so, maybe 8, I don't totally remember. And it's the same magic. It's beautiful. It's like this tiny little countryside town. I mean, it's not small town. Yeah? Don't misunderstand me. But I mean, I grew up in Berlin and live in Copenhagen now. So for me, it's a fairly small city. And just coming from Budapest, of course, is a kind of contrast. Everything is a bit slower here, but beautiful, friendly people, great restaurants, great food, thriving wine scene actually, a lot of culture, beautiful architecture and buildings, and it's beginning of July, so temperatures are 28, 29, 30 degrees, so people are sitting out in front of the restaurants, outside on the squares, and just like having dinner, eating, drinking, enjoying life, chatting. So it's this kind of typical like Hungarian summer vibes that I remember from my first time here so vividly, and which is just beautiful to re-encounter in that regard. This story about Eger and also like blends is very fascinating. We go back a little bit in history, 1552 I think it was, when the Turks were sieging Eger, and they were seeing the people of Eger drinking red wine every day, these like deep colored red wines, and we will have this later in the glass with the Merengő, to give you an example. And the Turks were simply like, my God, those people here in Eger, they are drinking bull's blood. Yeah, so we can simply not attack the city. We have to abandon the siege and move on somewhere. And this is actually how the city of Eger, allegedly, that is how the legend goes, was spared from this like Turkish attack because of these heavy, like deep colored red wines that people were consuming here. Super exciting story that is connected to the Egri Bikavér blend, and really shows how this actually is like manifested in the city's history. Winemaking here is old. Winemaking here is traditional. There's, for example, like the Valley of the Beautiful Woman, which is a very nice little like thing to go when you are staying here. It's a like small little like area southwest of Eger, where you have like a lot of like wine caves, and you can sit down and eat something and drink some wine and just enjoy, maybe 1 or 2 hours, or have some nice lunch actually, or go there in the evening. Quality of the winemakers is very mixed. Some top wineries have their like caves there, some of the like medium-sized or small like family wineries. It's very beautiful to be there. There's a children's playground, so it's actually kind of good also like if you go there with your family, so you can really spend some time there. Region. So it's this like little valley here behind me, like shaped like a horseshoe actually, that is in the southwest of Eger, just like 15 minutes walk from the city center. And you have here all these like cellars lined up of like different wineries, different like qualities, swinging from some top producers like Tóth Ferenc, where we are sitting outside here, to some more like smaller family driven wineries, and really lovely, beautiful like historic sites. So in like the older times, this was of course not like this like showroom atmosphere that we have here, this like open cellar atmosphere. No, it was actually the cellars where, in the tough structure of the hills around us, the winemakers stored their wines and stored the barrels until they were ready for selling. And today it is this kind of like little like marketplace where you just drop in any winery, you have some different places to eat, or like very casual, very easy prices, very normal. Also like in the small little forest section behind me, there's a children's playground, so super super good also like to bring your kids when you're in the area, not a problem. And yeah, you can of course drink like all varieties of wines here. I mean, many of the producers have their Kadarkas, their Kékfrankos, they're very classic like Egri Csillag and Egri Bikavér that we will discuss in this video. But also here, for example, at Tóth Ferenc, I found the Leányka, which is like a local, very rare grape variety, very typical for the Eger region. Juicy, beautiful, fresh, very delightful and floral wine, straightforward and lovely actually. Well, what's not to like about it? So as you can see, it is a place like with historic significance for the region of Eger, definitely like a must stop by when you are here in the region. Grab your friends, grab your family, have some light little lunch and discover the valley of the beautiful woman. This is like one of the places where previously like the wineries actually like stored their wines. It's these old caves that are like in this like volcanic tuff and the limestone structure that this region is really known for. So you can go inside and you see the bricks and you see the stones. Even here in the apartment where I am, I mean, behind me it's the second floor here, behind me just like the elevation is going up into the garden and it's very cold like on the baseline floor, on the basement floor, and you have these like big bricks because everything is built into the hills to use the space, to use the structure, to use this volcanic tuff, to use the cooling effect. It's kind of beautiful. And part of it is also that Eger has these like amazing like underground structure of cellars. So basically when you walk into like a winery and you go into their like native cellar in this like tough structure, they have this wide network of cellars that are spanning over like many wineries, and you can actually go into the cellar and go from winery to winery, which is very fun. Famous winemaker of the region, Tibor, of who we tasted the Egri Csillag actually blend, he made use of it in his labels. So this like kind of interesting like labyrinth, like one of his wines is even called labyrinth structures he has on the labels that is actually like just a sign for how complex and complicated the cellar network under Eger is actually supposed to be. So Eger is an interesting region. So it's actually one of, I want to say, Hungary's coolest wine growing regions. We have some very cooling influence here. It's also like explains when we go a little bit like further, like northeast, even like 50 minutes or so, we come to Turkey, which is of course a wine growing region famous for mint and hash levelü, but also for these like Turkey Ashu wines. So Hungary's like elite like dessert wines, Sauterne equivalent. And so we understand that we are in this like channel, in this window where actually, given that the general Hungarian climate in this like Pannonian Basin where we are is moderate to even warm, definitely warm in southern Hungary, then actually Eger and also Turkey are the odd ones out, where we have a little bit cooler temperatures, better day and night contrasts, better possibilities, especially on the hills. There are like hills surrounding the city of Eger where the wine is grown, where we definitely can ripen grapes but keep acidity actually fresh. And this is also one of the reasons why not only red wines play a significant role here, but white wines too. For example, in 2010, they established here like the white wine equivalent to the Egri Bikavér. They call it the Egri Csillag, which is, so to say, the other important like signature like PDO we have in the region, a white wine blend where no grape is allowed to have more than 50% and is actually only allowed to use native white wine grapes, like for mint, like hash levelü, like Leányka, Királyleányka, Zenit, for example. And for example, about Leányka and Királyleányka, I'm doing like independent like tasting videos, also about Kadarka, for example, which you can find linked in the show notes as soon as they are up, as soon as I've tasted these grape varieties and had them in the glass. Well, and the second must stop here in Eger is actually the winery of Tibor, placed dominantly in the city center, not far away from the Minaret, where you definitely want to go up to. It is a beautiful like new built estate here with an amazing like wine bar where you can sit outside, have some snacks and enjoy those great wines that this producer is actually bringing into the bottle. Tibor, like the estate was founded in 2005 by his father, Tibor, also called Tibor, right? And he was actually like a renowned winemaker in Tuscany, then coming home to Hungary, to Eger, like starting the winery here in 2005. 2005. And after his death, Tibor Jr. was taking over, and today bringing this winery actually like to international recognition. One of the like few absolute benchmark estates here from the Eger region. And very interesting is actually the labels on the bottles that you can also like see here as like a big sign on the door behind me. This is a symbol of the like complex like underground cellars that are all over or stretch all over Eger and connect actually like every winery's cellar with each other. But now let's focus on the wine here in front of us. We have an Egri Csillag, and this is something I definitely want to talk to you about because it is one of the two like flagship cuvées that Eger is famous for. The Egri Csillag, which is the white wine cuvée, the local one that was established in 2010 as the white wine alternative to the Egri Bikavér, the most famous like red wine cuvée. And like for the Egri Bikavér, the Egri Csillag, the star of Eger as I translate, has to be dominantly like built around local grape varieties. No one grape variety is allowed to have more than 50%. And the typical like native varieties used for this cuvée include Furmint, include Hajlevelu, Leányka, Királyleányka, or the Cellars variety. So those are wines that are made for drinking, easy drinking, simple and uncomplicated, fresh summer wines, aromatic. We definitely can see here like that there are some aromatic varieties like Hajlevelu probably also like used, but also Leányka. Very nice and floral on the nose, very fruity, like fresh and peachy. It really like says, drink me now, enjoy me now, make it uncomplicated, enjoy that we have 29 degrees Celsius, a beautiful summer day here. And fresh at the right temperature. Good solid acidity, but not too much. It reminds a little bit of Pinot Grigio in this regard, of Grauburgunder, an acidity where everybody can be aligned with, 12.5% alcohol, easy, uncomplicated, straightforward, a wine that you simply want to enjoy more of. And this is exactly what Egri Csillag, the star of Eger, should be like. Easy, approachable, drinkable, soft, nice, floral and fruit-driven white wines based on local grape varieties, showing what this region actually can do. When we talk about the history of Eger and actually like the famous red wine blend, the Egri Bikavér, which is the bull's blood blend, how it's often called. It's a local blend of red wines. It's a, if I'm not totally mistaken, PDO, so it is like a designated origin actually, and it comes in different quality levels. The normal Egri Bikavér, there can be a superior. The red wine blend, the Egri Bikavér, which is based mainly on local varieties. So there must be 50% content at least of Kékfrankos and Kadarka, which are the typical like Hungarian red wine varieties, and then the other 50% can, for example, be substituted by international varieties. Pinot Noir is very popular here, Cabernet Sauvignon is popular here, Merlot is popular here. It is really a region where red wines are thriving. Good, now we had the Egri Csillag from Tibor already in the glass when I visited the winery like earlier today, but I think now it's time to go for something I'm extremely excited about since I first have stepped foot in this winery actually. St. Andrea, I mean, it is the, I want to say, the absolute like flagship producer of this region. And the Merengő, this is absolutely the most prestigious wine. It is a Egri Bikavér Superior, which is the best you can produce here. The 2022 vintage we have here in the hand actually. I'm looking much forward to this bottle. It's kind of like, when I visited the last time, I mean, a couple of years ago, I remember I bought some of the remaining 2007 bottles. They were actually like selling and shipped them to Denmark in a kind of ridiculous attempt. And those wines were absolutely beautiful and stunning. And it was a nice reminiscence for me, like a couple of days ago in Budapest, when I went to the Sky Bar, because they have a Sky Bar actually in the city center of Budapest, which is of course also like linked in the show notes. And I went there like for my last night in Budapest, and they had the 2006 by the glass for €15 or something like this, 1.5 per glass. Ridiculous price, really, honestly. And I got a glass, and my God, this was one of the best examples of a ripened and aged and mature developed red wine I had quite in a while, like nearly 20 years old, and it was so concentrated, mushroom, forest floor, leathery, beautiful like rose petals, just like an amazing concentration, and still like so lively and vibrant acidity and tannic structure. So this is wine that has like, an enormous like aging potential. St. Andrea is the local flagship variety, located southwest to the Eger city. And let's have a look. I'm looking forward to this. So as we said, Egri Bikavér, the bull's blood blend must be made of at least 50% like local varieties, local red wine varieties, Kadarka and Kékfrankos, and the rest can be supplied by international varieties. And Andrea actually tells us here pretty precisely what's in. So they say it's a dry red wine of Kékfrankos, Merlot, Pinot, Noir, Cabernet Franc, Syrah and Kadarka. So quite a bold mix. 14.5% alcohol here for the 2022. And I mean, if you look at it, right, I mean, this is... you can totally understand why the Turks were thinking that people are drinking like bull's blood here. And what I always like about this is, and especially when we talk about Sant Andrea and we talk about the Merengő, they really know how to not overdo it with the oak. It's the best barrels, definitely. There is an oaky touch, there's vanilla, there's coconut, there's some Coca-Cola hints, there is some malolactic, there's something creamy, there's some good like substance in the wine, definitely. You want to have it with this like kind of wine that you want to age for like decades in best case. But the fruit profile is so delightful. It's this like blackcurrant perspective. There is some blueberry from the Syrah definitely in the nose. There is some plumminess. There's some deep cherry, like nearly Aronia cherry quality. There's some deep cherry perspective, some Aronia berries quality, which is very lovely, and some herbal hint and some complexity and some cedar that is really chocolate that is really just like, giving you a lot of associations, so you immediately like understand this is a highly complex wine, which is beautiful. And what I always will admire this estate for, and I mean, I don't make a secret about it, I mean, because I'm not neutral, it will always for me be probably one of the first wines that really opened up for me how amazing Hungarian red wines can be. I think this is really a wine that shows the beauty of Hungarian wine, the essence of it, and the greatness that those wines actually can achieve. Structure-wise, it is a bomb. The acidity is precise, the tannins are grippy, but already with the 2022 vintage, like well integrated, very nicely, getting soft slowly, fitting into the wine. The 14.5%, to be totally honest. I mean, I chilled it lightly, maybe to 16 degrees Celsius. You don't feel that. It's so well integrated. It fits in with this like full-bodied experience, with the fruit profile, with the oak, with the like complexity it comes with. That it simply, for me, presents always like an amazing example of, a fuller-bodied styled red wine, which I personally drink less and less. But every time when I get like Egri Bikavér from a high-quality producer, then I actually am quite excited about that. Eger, of course, has like many like other like interesting things to offer. There is a Minaret, for example. I was a little bit scared, I must say. I don't remember it like so tight and like compact from the last time I have been a couple of years ago. But I went up definitely. It's very narrow. People can only go up one by ones or like in couples or so. And then you have to wait like outside until somebody is like coming down. 96 steps or so. And then you're coming out and you have this beautiful view of Eger. But definitely you should not have like any kind of altitude sickness or problems with heights. And you're getting a bit in a panic. And it can blow like quite much up there. So it's a little adventure trip within this whole like adventure to be in this wine region. Also something that is absolutely recommendable to visit is of course the castle of Eger, swooning over the city and overlooking the whole city and giving you beautiful perspectives onto the vineyards. I mean, so much history in this like walls. So this is like the nice thing about Eger. It's a small town with like a lot of like history, with a lot of beautiful architecture, with a lot of parks, with beautiful greens and the small like rivers going through the city. So you do not only come here for the wine, you can visit the wineries who are regularly open and so on and so forth. But you also can have here some nice time with culture, with architecture, going to museums. One highlight, of course, of the city is the Beatles Museum. I mean, you have to just mention that. It's kind of fun. I've never been in, I'm totally honest, because I like the Beatles music, but I wouldn't consider myself like fan enough to go to a Beatles museum. But I think like if that is your era and if that is your time, then it's probably also like just fun to spend like 1 or 2 hours there and discovering that. So what does it leave us with? Eger is, in my opinion, like an overseen wine growing region. I think like I talked to many people who have been in Budapest and they are like, what? They do wine growing like 1.5 hours like northeast of it. It's a little bit the story for Hungarian wines in general. I think Hungarian wines are worth to get more attention in the international like wine community. So I can just like invite everybody to, get a flight to Budapest, have of course a nice time there, definitely, but also like take maybe a car and go up to those wine regions that are like surrounding, be it like Szomló 2 hours to the west, be it like Balaton also 2 hours to the west, or be it like Eger and Tokai between 1.5 hours and 2 hours to the northeast of Budapest. And that being said, thank you for joining this journey and following my quest for traveling the world of wine and informing about wine and tasting 1,368 grape varieties. I hope you like this content, and I'm very grateful for like a like or share or even like a subscribe. Thank you so much in advance, and see you around here for tasting like more of 1,368 grape varieties. Cheers.